Hello students, this is Annapurna madam here, and in this video today I am going to discuss The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare, Act 1, Scene 1, line 1 to 70. Now before proceeding into Act 1, Scene 1, we need to make ourselves clear regarding the characters. Characters play an important role in drama. So we need to identify them properly. So first we will discuss about the characters, and then I will give you a line by line explanation of Act 1, Scene 1, line 1 to 70. And the rest part of the scene will be coming up in part 2 and part 3. Let's begin with the most important character of the play, Antonio. Antonio, the central figure of the play, a rich merchant, and the play is rightly named after him. He is a Christian and a very good friend of Bassanio. He has an enemy called Shylock. He has to borrow money from Shylock, his bitterest enemy, for the sake of his friend. He is a man of passive nature, or we can say non-aggressive nature. But he is a kind-hearted man who lends money to the people without charging any interest. Next is Shylock, who is a Jewish moneylender who holds a grudge against Antonio because Antonio is a Christian. Secondly, he lends money to the people without gratis, which brings losses to his own business. We can say he is the antagonist of the play or the villain of the play. Next is Portia, the heroine of the play, a wealthy heiress. Her father has devised the riddle of the 3 caskets. Whoever chooses the right casket, that is the casket which contains her portrait, would marry her. She marries Bassanio and disguises herself as a lawyer to save Antonio from the clutches of Shylock. She is a combination of beauty and intelligence. She has got a sharp wit, intelligence, and wisdom. Bassanio, Antonio's friend who needs money. Bassanio by nature is a spendthrift who spends his money lavishly and borrows money from Antonio. Bassanio wants to get married to Portia and get free from all his debts. Next, we have Gratiano, a close friend of Bassanio, a funny and loyal character who falls in love with Nerissa and gets married to Nerissa. Lorenzo is one of the most interesting and romantic minor characters in the play. He is a friend of Gratiano and a member of the Bassanio circle. He is a good friend and a poet and accomplished gentleman, a good lover and an exceedingly good husband. He falls in love with the Jew's daughter, Jessica. He is a gay and a carefree young man, full of life. He enjoys himself everywhere in Venice, in Genoa, at Belmont, wherever he may happen to be. Jessica, the only daughter of the Jew, Shylock, though she is a Jewess, yet she elopes with the Christian Lorenzo. She is extremely charming and beautiful. Nerissa, Portia's waiting gentlewoman. Nerissa is the shadow of Portia. Though she is a maidservant, yet she was excellent friend and companion of Portia. She is always bound to the apron strings of her mistress Portia. She marries Gratiano. We find her in the play with strong common sense and judgment. Portia shares all her secret with her. These were the major characters of the play, but there are other characters like Salenio, Salerino, Salerio, who are friends of Antonio and Bassanio, Balthazar, Porcia's faithful and loyal servant, Stefano, who is a servant to Portia, Tubal, a Jew, Shylock's friend, Lancelot Gobbo, a foolish man in the service of Shylock. He is the clown of the play. Old Gobbo, father of Lancelot. Leonardo, servant to Bassanio. Duke of Venice, Venetian authority who presides over the case of Shylock's bond. Prince of Morocco, Prince of Aragon, they were the suitor to Portia. Magnificos of Venice, officers of the court of justice. Gaola, servant to Portia, and other attendants. Act 1, Scene 1. When the scene opens, we find Antonio, who is really the merchant of Venice, in a very sad mood. We find that he is complaining to his friends about his melancholy, which he cannot find any reason for. He has two of his friends, Salerino and Salenio, who are trying to cheer him up. So let's start the text. Antonio, in sooth, I know not why I am so sad. It worries me. You say it worries you. But how I caught it, found it, or came by it, what stuff it's made of, whereof it is born, I am to learn. And such a want wit, sadness makes of me, that I have much ado to know myself. In these lines, Antonio wants to say that, in sooth, in truth, or to tell the truth, truly speaking, I do not know what is the reason of my sadness. Antonio is feeling sad and depressed without any apparent reason. It tires me. It worries me, means it tires me or makes me a depressed fellow. You say it worries you. You refers to here to his friends. The friends of Antonio too are depressed in spirits to find him in sadness. He even says that he doesn't know how he caught it or found it or came by this sadness. But he really wants to know the reason of his sadness. What is it made of? Where is it born? And such a want with sadness makes me of. Want with means having no wit or wisdom, or a dull, stupid fellow. This sadness of his made him a dull, stupid fellow. And I have much ado to know myself. Ado means difficult. So I have great difficulty to recognize myself. I am feeling unhappy because I do not know the reason of my sadness. Salerino, your mind is tossing on the ocean. There were your argosies with portly sail, like Cygnus and rich barges on the floods, or as it were the pigeons of the sea do overpeer the peaty traffickers, that curtsy to them, do them reverence as they fly by them with their woven wings. In these lines, and Salerino wants to express that Antonio is feeling depressed because he keeps on thinking constantly of his ships that are sailing on the ocean. We very well know that there is the danger of the winds, waves, and rocks in the ocean. So he wants to say to Antonio that your mind is uneasy to think of any possible mishap to the ships. There were your argosies. Argosies means big merchant ships with portly sail, having a majestic sail, like Cygnus and rich burghers. Cygnus means noble and rich burghers means citizens. On the flood, your ship is moving on the ocean like rich and noble citizens. Or as it were, the pageants of the sea. Pageants means the scenery of the ocean or the colorful shows. So it is moving over or tower over the little trade boats as that pass by or parading on the ocean. Do overpeer the petty traffickers. Overpeer means look down or having a despised look. Petty traffickers, small cargo boats, do courtesy to them. That means bow to the big ships or seem to salute them. Do them reverence, do show them respect as they fly by them with their oven wings. When they move, your ships move, these small boats bow before the greatness of your ships. Salanio, believe me, sir, had I such venture forth, the better part of my affections would be with my hopes abroad. I should be still plucking the grass to know where sits the wind, peering maps for ports and piers and roads, and every object that might make me fear misfortune to my venture, out of doubt, would make me sad. Salanio says that if he were in Antonio's place and had such costly ships and merchandise on the sea, he would have thought of nothing else but the ships. He would have been fearful about their safety. So all his affection or his thoughts would have centered around the ship only. His best thoughts and feelings would have centered around his ships. I should be still plucking the grass to know where sits the wind. This is the plucking the grass is an ancient method of knowing the direction of the wind. So he says that if my ships would have been out, so I would be pulling up shoots of grass to use them to check the wind, whether the wind is favorable for my ship or not. I would be peering means looking into the maps for ports and piers and roads. I'd be looking into the maps to know where the harbor or any place of safety for my ships to be anchored. And every object, I'll be looking into every object that would bring danger to my ship. And this, out of doubt, would make me sad. For that, I would be sad. So Salanio's suggestion is that Antonio's anxiety about the safety of his ship is the real cause of his sadness. Salarino, my wind cooling my breath would blow me to an oak. When I thought what harm a wind too great to see might do, I should not see the sandy hourglass run, but I should think of sallows and of floods, and see my wealthy Andrew docked in sand, veiling her high-top lower than her ribs to kiss her burial. Both Salanio and Salarino attribute Antonio's melancholy to his anxiety about the ships on the sea. This fear of unknown danger is at the back of his mind and depresses his spirit. Salarino says that if he were in Antonio's place, he would at all times be thinking of his ships. If he blew wind from his mouth to cool the soup of meat, this little wind would remind him of the strong stormy wind on the ocean that might send the ship to the bottom of the sea. I should not see the sandy hourglass run. In olden days, sand glasses were used as clocks. Time was measured by the amount of sand fallen from one cylinder into the lower one. In Shakespeare's days, the richer classes had watches and the common people used sand glasses. A sand glass was always fixed in the church near the pulpit. The sound of the sand clock would remind Salerno of the sandbanks in the sea where the ships run aground and sink. Deep water is safe for the ships, shallow water is dangerous. The ship gets stuck in the sand at the bottom, so it will meet its burial place, because if a ship strike a sandbank, it would run aground, it would be tilted over one side, and its one side would be higher than the topmast, and the ship would be sunk and buried in the sand. Should I go to church and see the holy edifice of stone and not bethink me straight of dangerous rocks, which touching but my gentle vessel's side would scatter all her spices on the stream, and rob the roaring waters with my silks, and in a word, but even now worth this, and now worth nothing. Salerno wants to say that if he would go to a church and see the holy edifice of stone, holy edifice of stone means the holy church building which is made of stones. So the stones of the church would bring him the association of dangerous rocks whose slightest touch would cause a shipwreck. The ship would be broken and all the merchandise of spices and silks carried by the ship would be scattered on the waves. The roaring waves would be wearing the silks dropped from the wrecked ship, and the high sounding waves be clothed in silk. A minute before, the ship was worth a fortune, but after being wrecked, the ship would be worth nothing. So the owner would be a ruined man. Shall I have the thought to think on this? And shall I lack the thought that such a thing bechanced would make me sad? But tell not me, I know Antonio is set to think upon his merchandise. Here Salerno wants to say that if I can picture all these losses, can I not believe that such losses can make me sad? It is no good denying this. No, you need not argue the matter. It is Antonio's anxiety for his ships which is depressing him. Antonio, believe me, no, I thank my fortune for it. My ventures are not in one bottom trusted, not to one place, nor is my whole estate upon the fortune of this present year. Therefore, my merchandise makes me not sad. Antonio dismisses the suggestion of his friends Salenio and Salerno, who were positive that Antonio's sadness was the result of his unconscious anxiety about the safety of his ships on the ocean. His ships were in danger from winds, waves and rocks. But Antonio does not agree to this. He can't worry about his ships. He is lucky that his merchandise is carried not by one ship but many ships. If one ship is lost, other ships would return safe to the destinations. Also, all his ships are not going to same country. They are not in the same part of the ocean. If there is a storm in one sea, other ships will not be affected. Antonio is a royal merchant and his ships travel to different parts of the globe. or different parts of the world. Antonio adds that his wealth is not invested in the business of the present year. He is lucky in that case. Salarino, why then you are in love? When Antonio does not agree to all these suggestions, so Salarino finds out another reason for his sadness. He says that then you must be in love. Antonio says 5 means same on you. Salarino, when he suggested that Antonio is sad as he might have loved and has lost someone, Antonio gives a cry of disgust. 5. Antonio is not prepared to consider this suggestion. Salarino, not in love neither. Then let us say you are sad because you are not married, and it were as easy for you to laugh and live and say you were merry because you are not sad. Antonio says that he is sad neither on account of his sins nor because of love. Salarino can find no reason for his melancholy. So he says he is sad because he is sad. There is no reason whatever. In the same view, Antonio could be cheerful without any reason. So we can say that, then let us just say you are sad because you are not happy. It would be just as easy for you to laugh and jump around and just say you are happy because you are not sad. Now by two-headed Janus, nature hath framed strange people in her time, some that will evermore peep their eyes and laugh like parrots at a bagpiper, and other of such vinegar aspect, that they all not show their teeth in way of smile, though Nestor swear the jest be laughable. In these lines, Salarino refers to two-headed Janus. Janus is a two-headed Roman god with one face smiling and the other face frowning, or is full of tears. The month of January is named after him. Salarino swears by this god Janus and remarks that there are two sorts of people in the world, or two classes of people. There are some who, like parrots, laugh at anything or everything. They can laugh even at a bagpiper. Others are such sad fellows that they will never smile, even though Nestor, the gravest man, may declare that a joke is laughable. Salarino, here comes Bassanio, your most noble kinsman. Gratiano and Lorenzo, fare ye well, we leave you now with better company. Here, Salarino wants to say that, and Bassanio is approaching his most worthy relative or his best friend, accompanied by Gratiano and Lorenzo. So he wants to take leave and wants to leave him with more pleasing companions of his. Salarino, I would have stayed till I made you merry, if worthier friends had not prevented me. In these lines, Salarino wants to say, if these better friends had not appeared and anticipated my efforts, I would not have left you until I had cheered you and seen you in better spirits. Antonio, your worth is very dear in my regard. I take it your own business calls on you, and you embrace the occasion to depart. Antonio is saying, I appreciate your kindness and esteem you greatly. I'm sure you must have affairs of your own which need your attention. So you take the opportunity of leaving me in good hands. Enter Bassanio, Lorenzo, and Gratiano. Salarino, good morrow, my good lords. It means good morning. Good morrow means good morning to my lords, that is Bassanio, Graciano and Lorenzo. Bassanio, good Cygnus both. When shall we laugh? Say when. You grow exceeding strange. Must it be so? Here Bassanio both means to Salarino and Salenio. Both of you are good men. When are we going to have fun times together? Tell me when. You are practically strangers now. Does it have to be that way? Salarino, we will make our lasers to attend on yours. Here he wants to say that we will take time to meet you to your convenience. If we get a chance, we will spend some time together and make you happy. Exeunt Salarino and Salenio. Exeunt is the plural form of exit. With this, I conclude the part 1 of Act 1, Scene 1. The rest part of the scene will be continued in the part 2 and part 3. Till then, goodbye. Have a nice day.